Hi, this is Austin with a question for Jocko Willink. I just want to know if there's anywhere I can listen to your old punk band Rage of Discipline you brought up on the Joe Rogan show. I've been looking for it but can't find it. Any information would be helpful. Thanks a lot. Love your work.
Did you ever play with Kyle Turley? Did you guys ever cross paths?
I don't know. No, don't know who that is. Who's Kyle Turley?
He's he was an offensive lineman for the Rams, and he had a punk band, and he also served in the military as well.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So when I was a kid, like I said, I was a real rebellious kid, and we were always in bands. Now the bands meant, we were going to go into my shed and make noise. You know what I mean? It wasn't like we were out on tour or anything like that. But we did go in the studio one time, and we put down some tracks. I think we put down like 12 or 15 tracks, and my bro who was in the band with me, who's now a guy up in LA, Elgin James, he's actually a writer. He's a writer, and he's got his own cool story. You could have him on the podcast.
Yeah, I'd love to. We'll reach out to him.
Yeah, he's he anyways, I went in the military, and he ended up joining gang and kind of getting crazy for a while, and ended up in federal prison for a little bit. And in the meantime, he had broken away from that scene and went to started making movies. And he made a movie. He made a little short movie. Got invited to the Sundance Film Festival or the Sundance Film Lab, and he learned how to make movies. And he ended up doing a great movie called Little Birds. And now there's a new program. You ever heard of Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah.
So there's a spin-off from Sons of Anarchy. It's called Mayans MC. It's about a Mexican motorcycle gang. And anyways,
that's his show?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so he's writing that thing.
Interesting.
But yeah, when we were kids, me and him were getting our rock and roll on hardcore music, and we have the original what are they called? Reel-to-reel tapes. And we were just talking about this.
What is that?
So, reel-to-reel tapes. This is like back in the day when in a recording studio, they got all these different tracks. And so you need a thicker tape to record all the tracks. And so you had these big like reels, like a movie, like a old school movie.
I think I've seen this on the wall or something.
Yeah. So he's got the tracks, and we're finding a place right now that can take those tracks and burn them down onto, and we're going to release a couple. Yeah. We're going to get it real. I think we got 3 songs that are salvageable that would be worth throwing out there. So yeah, we'll do it, man. We'll put it out there. And
that could be a new weapon.
We would change the name of the band like every 6 weeks or whatever, because we'd say like, no, we're going in a new direction, right? Because we took ourselves super seriously. And so the kind of the iconic name of the band was Bronsons Children, after Charles Bronson. Wow. And we had these cool shirts that had a picture of Charles Bronson. They had Bronsons Children and like little kids writing on it. And so
what a fucking name.
Yeah. So I actually reprinted those, and I sell them. So,
nice.
So
dude.
people are representing the Bronsons Children.
Dude,
when we bring it back out, Rage of Discipline was the name of the band for a little while.
Course.
Was Rage of Discipline. We were called Struggle. We were called Lock and Load. We had all kinds of names, man. We'd have like internal issues about the direction and artistic control. Yeah. You know how it is when you're 14 and just playing in a punk rock band.
That's crazy. You're really just loud in the garage, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, it's definitely loud in the garage. There's no doubt about that.
That reminds me of, have you ever had Henry Rollins on?
I haven't, but the interesting thing
He's
about
an interesting
Rollins,
man.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I was way into Black Flag, which was, where he originally played, and he was the vocalist, got brought into Black Flag. But so I went on tour with, when he left Black Flag, he put out some albums of his own. In the beginning, it was called Rollins Band. The first one was called Henrietta Collins, but then the next one was called Lifetime. This is a great album. And when that album came out, me and all my friends from Bronsons Children, we went on tour, and we would go to every show he'd play. And we probably went to like 10 shows, but I saw him a bunch over the years. Yeah. And see, the cool thing is, this is back in the day where, we'd go to CBGB's and show up at, 3:00 in the afternoon, help them offload all their gear, help them get their gear set up as much as we could, hang out. And it was nothing, man. It's kind of like what the UFC used to be like when you just hang out with all the fighters. We would just be hanging out with everyone. Everyone was cool. And so did that with Rollins. Probably, like I said, it probably went to 10 shows, but I saw him not a bunch, I probably saw him 5 other times or 8 other times besides that. And when I was a kid, Rollins was this kind of like bigger than life kind of guy, because he's about 10 years older than me. And he has like Search and Destroy tattooed on his back. And he's like all hardcore. And, that definitely influenced me when I was a kid, because I was like 13, 14, 15
Search and
years
Destroy.
old.
That was your next band.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's an album called Black Flag My War. And if you listen to My War side 2, it's this really slow. It was the first kind of like really slow and heavy music that started to mix the hardcore and the punk with Black Sabbath into one. And so when I was a kid, that album, side 2 of that album, stayed on my record player for like a year straight, just playing that over and over again. And then I joined the military because I knew that's what I always wanted to do. And when it was probably 1992, whenever the first Lollapalooza, remember?
Yeah, I remember Lollapalooza.
So Rollins was playing Lollapalooza, and I went, and I didn't have tickets or anything, but I figured if I could just hook up with him, he'd let me in because
you'd seen him so many times.
Yeah, like we'd seen him, and we would hang out.
Yeah.
Not like bros,
right.
But hey man, he's 26 at the time, right? I'm 16. That's
yeah,
so
cool.
He's looking at me like, hey man, this guy's one of my young people or whatever.
Yeah.
And so then fast forward a few years, whatever it is, and I went to Lollapalooza, and I was pretty good when I was a kid at sneaking around and figuring stuff out.
Covert ops?
Yeah, covert operations. And I got to him, and he looked at me like he recognized me. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You meet a lot. He's meeting a lot of people over the years. But like I said, he might have recognized me. Who knows? But I was like, hey man, I went on tour with you, Lifetime tour, 80, whatever it was, 86 or something, 89, 88, whatever. It's like 86, 87. Yeah. And he goes, oh yeah, man, what's up? And I was like, hey man, any chance you could get us in? Get me and my boy here. And I had some other kid that was in the SEAL teams with me. That was a old hardcore kid. And I just remember him saying, he goes, man, it'd be easier to get you into Fort Knox right now. They got this place on lockdown. And he was cool. And then that was that. And then I saw him a couple years later at Cypress Hill.
Yeah,
I think it was Cypress Hill and the Beastie Boys and Rollins. And saw him. And so that was that. And so to answer your question, have I had him on the podcast? The answer is no, I haven't had him on the podcast. I talked about him on one of the early podcasts. Somebody asked me about him. And, I kind of talked about the fact that, when I was a kid, hey man, this guy was like super hardcore. And, that's that he had an influence on me when I was younger. And then, as I got older, and I was, like he had Search and Destroy tattooed on his back, and like I was doing Search and Destroy missions, right? So there was
So you think you're living out his tattoos?
A little bit. And but it'd be interesting. I definitely would like to sit down and talk to him. I'd like to find out if he really actually remembers us.
Yeah, because he's a smart man. He's very eloquent.
For sure. And the guy and that band had a big influence on me.
They had
for
a huge
sure.
influence. They had influence on a lot of people.
Yeah. Did you like that kind of music growing up?
No, I did go to a Cypress Hill. I went on that tour. I actually fucking hit this hot girl with my car in the parking lot one time, and I still feel bad about it a little bit. She was hot, but
did you injure her? What does that even
Everybody's
mean?
got their different definition, I think, of what an injury
Did you have to bring her to the hospital?
Look, we didn't have to, bro. We were running late.
Okay.
But I think somebody might have. But
so all that stuff we were talking earlier about being a good person and doing good in the world, I guess this was pre-Theo. This was high Theo.
School, yeah.
High school
This
Theo.
is high, literally. What's up, guys? Sitting here with this marijuana plant. I think also could be just a regular plant. Could be poison ivy, bro. I'm about to smoke myself into some itchy. Just watch another clip since you're already here. You know what I'm saying?